Hello everybody. Today is the 20th of November 2023 and here I will repeat the presentation I've been giving in the C-iasoS conference in Malta last week. So that was in Valletta, Malta, the 13th of November 2023 by the title Energy Transition and Sustainability. For some reason they didn't record it at the conference, so as promised I would put it, record it at home and then put it on YouTube and put a link to it on stalinga.org, where you can always find all my presentations that have been given in all the papers. Also there will be hopefully a paper publication related to this, so which you can then also find there. Title of the talk is Energy Transition and Sustainability, which was more or less the theme of the conference. For the background today, I made a picture from the when leaving from the airplane. A beautiful place, very nice weather and so on, great place. What you can see here on the background is here on the right you can see the island of Malta. Actually it consists basically of 3 islands. So here you have Malta, here you have the other big island which is Gozo, and then you have Comino in the middle. So let's go to the presentation exactly as given. I only added here the logo of the conference, which I forgot, my excuses. And as you can see here, it's the energy and transition and sustainability. I will start here, now that I have a little bit more time, I will also start here with saying that the phrase it is based on the idea is it is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it, which is from Upton Sinclair. And this presentation is not paid by anything. I should make it a little bit bigger, otherwise you will not be able to see what I'm talking about. Yes, this work got no funding whatsoever. So that's also then why I can say the things as they are, and not the things that they want me to present them, because they are paying for it. This work was paid by nothing, and no NGO and no government fund or something like this. It's completely paid by myself. So my background is that I work at the University of the Algarve, and I'm also a member of the Osonaba Philosophical Society. And like always, you can find the things on stalinga.org. So let's get started, and let's see if it gets more interesting. So the idea of this entire thing is what is this United Nations Agenda 2030 or the United Nations Sustainability Agenda? Well, if you look at it, you can find that it has 17 so-called goals. And for instance, there's this poverty, there's hunger, goal 1 and 2, and of course nobody can have anything against this, and that is actually with all of them. Our health is here, goal number 3. The education, of course, everybody wants to have good education. We want gender equality, who doesn't? Goal number 6, we want to have good water and sanitation. Goal number 7, we want to have energy. There we already start my presentation for today. And we also want economic growth. It's an economy conference, so I will talk about the economy, energy, and then also, of course, also about climate change. The other things is also inequality generally, as we have to have livable cities, the ocean should be good, the land should be good, we should have peace, we should have justice, and then of course number 17 is more or less the 17th rule of Fight Club is that we're going to talk about Fight Club all the day. So this sustainability agenda is number 17 is to talk about the sustainability agenda. So my expertise is also about climate change. I've published there quite some papers about this, and basically came to the conclusion that this is not correct. The way that they're telling you this, it is not correct. But in any case, there are 2 big observations that you can make here on this sustainability agenda. The first one is that it doesn't mention the number of people that should be living in the world. It doesn't say that we have to maximize this or minimize this, or actually to put it at a stable level. What level should it be stable at? It just says here what these people that are living on the planet, what kind of rules they should have. Maybe even more important, or maybe not, we will see at the end. Also, like Mr. Lomborg already observed this, that there are no priorities in these 17 goals. Which one is more important? Now imagine that we have goal number 13 and we have to save the planet from climate doom. But for that we have to put people into abject poverty and have them hungry. Is that good or not? Or is it that hunger and poverty are more important than this climate change? And this is actually with all of them. Gender equality. What is more important, hunger or gender equality? Are we all equally hungry? Is that good or is that something bad? Or if gender equality, if only men get food and women don't, is that bad or is that good? It doesn't have priorities in this. And we go back to this, that this will actually cause some problems in this entire agenda. So present the previous work. That have already been done. You can find this on stellinga.org, all the links. And that is that first of all, about the existence of things, I came to the conclusion that the only things that exist, that are things that have SI unit, Système International de Unité, or the international unit system that we're all using, kilograms, seconds, meters, etc. So, and the derived one is also important. So that means that what I'm saying is that things that exist have an SI unit. If it doesn't have SI units, it doesn't exist. Or to say it maybe in other words, only thing that can be measured and quantified, those exist. The other things, they do not exist. As an example, mathematics is not physics and is not about the real world. Physics is about the real world. Mathematics is about an imaginary world where you invent based on axioms. You invent a world and then start reasoning therein. Now, for instance, also numbers, they do not have an SI unit. And therefore, they are from mathematics. They are from mathematics. And because of that, numbers do not exist. Numbers do not exist. And then we're going to use this Thomas de Aquinas style, as I always like to say. Thomas de Aquinas style of reasoning. Everything that is either self-evident or based on self-evident things. So you can do reasoning based on self-evident things. Now numbers are self-evidently not existing. Let's reason then also from that. Money is nowadays, since we have been introducing fiat currency, it's no longer based on the physical world. It, for instance, doesn't have any longer an ounce of gold or something like this, or a promise on that. It is simply a number. It is not linked to the physical world. It only exists in the mathematical world. Therefore, conclusion, Thomas Aquinas, money does not exist. Money is a belief system. People believe in it and that's why it works. The real unit of economy is energy. The unit is joule per second. That is what we call the energy theory of value, which is more a modern version of the labor theory of value. The GDP is not expressed in dollars per year, but in joules per second, or in other words, in a watt. So then you base economy based on physics and put it in the real world and not in some kind of virtual world of mathematics. This is completely in line with the classics of Marx, Ricardo and Smith, where they, for instance, write, I don't remember actually anymore, I think it was Marx, but he said, no, maybe it was Smith, he said the value of a product is the toll and labor used to bring it to the market. Note that labor, or work in modern jargon, has an SI unit of Newton times meter, so Newton meter, which is exactly joule. So you see that is energy. Labor theory of value is in effect the energy theory of value. Now, to show you this in the previous work, found out that if you just look at the energy use per capita and the GDP per capita in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, 2015, I say here 2019, but it's 2015, that is complete correlation between the two. And we found out that at that time, 170 milliwatts of power is equivalent to $1 of GDP. That's interesting also, and we can also find that Piketty says the capital grows 5% per year, 95%, the rest is then production, of the production is consumption, and we can see also that this back then you get a geometric series of everything is growing 5% per year, including consumption, so in general the energy consumption is growing, and as you can see indeed that the growth, since we're using fossil fuels, of that in a moment, we're growing by 5% per year, exactly as the capital is growing and exactly as Piketty in his empirical law has found. In other words, energy is power consumption. energy. Economy is energy consumption. Very strange. The world GDP grows with the sixth power of energy, which is then of course complete nonsense. That is mathematical chicanery, since the GDP is based on dollars normally, and dollars are money which are in the mathematical world. You can actually do bookkeeping the way you want. You can actually find out that it is the sixth power of energy. Energy, the physical world, sixth power of energy in the mathematics world. No problem whatsoever. So to put it in all layers of philosophy, after all we're a member of the Philosophical Society, so you start with the layer of physics, where we found out thermodynamics, which is one of the fundamental laws of physics, as of nature, as Mr. Eddington says, that this is the only one that will stand up to scrutiny any way you look at it, and that is then that you can summarize this as the aim of the universe is to increase entropy, chaos, disorder, or we can always say, so for instance, the universe will die an heat death. And that is to be done then, the entropy is to be done as fast as possible, which is called, other people have written about this, is called a maximum energy entropy production idea. And then they found out, Mr. Prigozhin, which is not the same one as this guy from Russia, which is famous from last year's. This one, I think, is from France, if I'm not mistaken. That he found out that actually complex systems, like life, including humans, they produce entropy much faster, and therefore they exist. Then we can also understand that probably the universe is teeming with life, because everywhere in the universe this rule of to increase entropy is actually existing, and therefore life should exist everywhere in the universe, because life is producing entropy faster than dead objects. Now, biology is then based on this idea, namely that, based on such thermodynamics, namely Darwin is then saying that you have the survival of the entropyist, the word that I just invented. People are thermodynamic machines, and they're constantly trying to optimize their own thermodynamics. Economy is a description of the human interaction of exchange of these energy packages, let's say, of products. What they want to do, both in economy, is a set of agents, humans, but it can be agents in general, that want to reduce their Gibbs-free energy spending to produce, let's say, to use less energy on production, but at the same time increase their entropy production, which is, let's say, the consumption. When you consume a good, you actually produce, you convert it into entropy that goes into the universe. And they also want to increase actually their number, because if you increase the number, then you also increase further the entropy. So in terms of sociology, which is then based on economy is based on biology is based on physics. In terms of sociology, people are lazy, greedy, and proliferate, meaning they want to do as little as possible to get as much consumption as possible and to make as many children as possible. Philosophy, as I told you already, let's reason Thomas Aquinas styles from there. Here we have a pie chart of capitalism, and now if you look at it, for instance, here on the right side, we can see that the production is mainly done by the capital, not by humans. Every human on average has 70 energy slaves working for him, and that means that for any watt of energy spent, there are 70 watts of energy spent by the capital in the forms of things like fossil fuel burning and so on. Where it exactly goes, that is not the matter. It's a little bit difficult to say what part of the economy is factually being possible to be monitored and to be quantized by the economist. But in general, we can say that every human has 70 energy slaves. So 1.4% of the production is done by humans, and 98.6% is done by the capital. This gives a completely different perspective to Marxism. Because now look on the left side, the consumption, 5% is for growing capital, 1% is for maintaining capital. So that is that 94% actually, or 95 or 94, the biggest part is actually, the consumption is by humans. Humans are producing the entropy and not the capital. Meaning that the people skim the surplus value made by the capital and not the other way around. There you go, Marxists. It is not that the capital is skimming the surplus value created by the humans, but the people are skimming the surplus value created by the capital. It's exactly the other way around. Capital grows by 5.5% year on year. Now let's get back to this. Again, this graph, you can see here nice the 5% growth year on year. 5% per year, but then you can also see that something happened here during World War I and World War II. The growth was stymied and now it is was only about 2% per year. And note that when we introduced fiat money in 1971 by Nixon, the abolition of the gold standard, it has exactly the same effect as war. So there is something bad going on. And on top of that, if you look at by that time, if you look at the productivity of people together with the capital, before and after the introduction of fiat money, you can see that the wages after the introduction of fiat money didn't grow as fast as productivity. And that is interesting because it is apparently the ones in power to decide about fiat money have not set a very high priority on poverty or about equality. At least they don't care about if the workers earn money or not. They are the stakeholders in the agenda. And why do they do this? Well, let's see. Once again, they are also thermodynamic machines. They are lazy, greedy and proliferate. So they want to take the consumption all to themselves and they manage because they are in power. Okay, so here are some other myths about some Marxist myths. For instance, the myth that the Great Depression in 1929 and 1933, which is basically in the United States but also in the rest of the world, that was caused by capitalism and we got out of it by the New Deal, or in other words, socialism. So the hypothesis is that crisis in Marxism is caused by saturation. You get the crisis of overproduction. You have to imagine that people are standing in front of the bakery, unemployed, they don't have money to buy the products from the bakery, which actually have all the ingredients and have everything to produce the bread. So you get the situation in which you have hungry, unemployed people in front of idle capital. Solution was, allegedly, to give money to the workers in the New Deal, and then they could buy the bread in the bakery again. But once again, if you understand this, money is not relevant, it's only a number, only energy is. And the end of the depression signifies that it was not caused by saturation, because nowadays we are at least, let's say, hundreds of times consuming more energy than we were consuming in 1929. So this crisis was not caused by saturation, it was caused by something else, namely bad management by the people in power. And to show you what is this bad management, look here on this thing that they printed. The newspapers, they printed huge losses in Wall Street, sales set all-time record. Which of course, this might be true, but there's no losses because not a single iota of capital was lost. It only changed hands. And to show you again, here's the picture of the energy consumption. Now here is this 1929 or something like this. As you can see yourself, there is no effect of this the Great Depression. I have to go like this. It is simply done by bad government. If you give people in central power, they mess up things, and this is sort of like a universal law. They start claiming the production for themselves, and the other people, they get demotivated and they lose their jobs, and there's nothing for them left to consume. So it's just bad governance. Another myth in the Marxist theory is that capitalism will destroy the environment. For instance, it will cut down the forest. Well, the fact is that people need wood, and that's why the capital will produce this wood for the people. A forest is a source of income. A forest is capital, and as we have seen by Piketty, capital will grow by 5%. So in capitalism, the forest will actually grow by 5% because there's a need of wood. If people on the other hand would prefer cattle, like for instance now in Brazil I think is the case, they will indeed cut down the forest to make place for pasture for animals to graze, so that people are not hungry and they have meat to eat. So this system will exactly give the people what they want. And it's not for the other people to decide what the others want. You can have bad governance. Once again, this is socialism. Imagine that people demand wood because they are cold at home, and we grant them the democratic wish, and we will just cut down the entire forest. That way you can consume more than 100% of the production. And nowadays, people do not need wood, but we have some democratically elected protection of the environment, and we will actually plant trees while people are dying of hunger and they don't have meat to eat. In capitalism, you have a continuous 5% growth of the means of production and wealth, and 95% of that is consumption. In the other side, the communism, when you have a central committee deciding about the production, then the consumption can be more than 100%. And because that is the thermodynamic optimum for the voters, for all these agents, so even the economy can be shrinking. And this is exactly what we have seen in all communist societies. They all fail sooner or later. Don't forget, people will vote for increasing their consumption, even if the consumption is not possible, even if it's more than 100%. Why? Because people are lazy, greedy, and proliferate, as we have seen from thermodynamics. To give you an example, let's now go to the subject. Let me put it like this. The energy transition, that is the major point of my talk today. We want to have an energy transition. Now, let's see how we can do this. We can make the climate, goal number 13, we can make it a priority. So we have to reduce the energy, fossil fuel consumption somehow. Let's see if it can be done without losing goals 1 and 2, hunger and poverty. Scenario number 1, let's try to reduce the energy consumption. And this was done, for instance, on purpose or not, this was done by destroying the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And as we can see, because as I said in the energy theory of value, energy is related to wealth. So if you cut down the energy source, literally if you cut down the physical energy source, your economy will collapse. It will create poverty and hunger, exactly as we now see in Europe. Germany and Europe is actually now in a crisis, economic crisis, because of lack of Russian gas. So there's a direct link between energy and an economy. So let's try it another way. Let's tax energy. Let's tax energy so that production becomes hopefully more efficient. But wait a second. There is no need to do that, because in capitalism there is already a driving force to increase the efficiency, because that would increase profit. And the driving force for all economy in capitalism is profit. That way they will actually drive the energy consumption down, because they're lazy, they want to reduce their energy consumption. But all people will do this, so what will actually be done is driving the prices down, but they will still increase their energy consumption by 5% per year. And so that means the increase in efficiency does not lead to reduced energy consumption, but will lead to an increased number of products. Or in other words, the drive for efficiency will lead to even more wealth and even more entropy production. Or to put it in another slangish physics words, you get more entropic bang for less energetic buck. That is the driving force of capitalism. Because exchange prices are established on the free market to continue like this. On the free market, the exchange ratio between products is constant. If you tax energy, the only thing that will happen, if the energy is the currency of payment, so to say, it will just mean that everything in dollars or euros will become more expensive. While in energy it will stay the same. In euros or dollars it will simply cause inflation. The ratio of euro or dollar to joule will simply go up. Imagine you have a car that's cost 1 megajoule to produce, and it was costing 20 kilo euros. It was costing 10 kilo euros. Now it will still cost 1 megajoule to produce, but now it will cost 20 kilo euros, the exact same car. And because of this salary compensation, automatic price compensation or something like this, also salaries will go up to re-establish the equilibrium that was established on the free market. So what you will just get is inflation or a price spiral. taxing, therefore at the end will change nothing. You will not get more products, not to get less products, not more or less efficiency. There is actually nothing happening whatsoever except for a temporary push to poverty done by the government. So to put it in this picture again, what you do, you just inflate the money, but you don't inflate the energy or decrease the energy consumption. You can see here this disk where the area is the money and where the angle is the energy. You just have the same angles, but you have more area in your disk. It can take some time to re-establish this set equilibrium, during which time we have a thermodynamic suboptimum. We have temporary poverty from which we are recovering, as you can understand. Now let's do then the other way. Let's subsidize renewable energies. Once again, subsidies, just negative tax. The exact same mathematics will work on that. Negative tax is the same as positive tax. It changes nothing. It has the same math. So again, you will at the end, you will simply have the same equilibrium. Note also, mind you, that a system where we only had renewable energies, that was before the introduction of fossil fuels, and that is what we call nature. So this natural sustainability, and that was thermodynamically optimized with a limited amount of entropy produced, with a limited amount of people. So you can see here, for instance, until the 1900 or something like this, maybe 500 million people in the world. And I will come back to this number in a moment. If we do only renewable energies, we cannot do it better than trees and things like this, which are very much renewable, not so good with solar panels or windmills. With these renewables, we will inevitably fall back to our rightful place in nature, about 500 million people in nature. So that means that about 95% of the people will die. Note also that this talk is not being funded by oil companies like Shell. These people, Royal Dutch Shell, the logo is here, if I'm not sitting in front of it, like this. That is, you can see yourself, the only thing they're doing, they are also winning from this renewable energy swindle. And we can call it a greenwashing. They're just talking very nicely about the climate and about the environment, but at the end they just want to cash in, to rake in the subsidies. Go look for yourself how this company like Royal Dutch Shell had already in 1991 had a video which is called Climate of Concern. They actually warning about that their products were changing the climate because they wanted to change to more lucrative forms of income, namely raking in subsidies instead of having to do dubious, risk-full oil mining in countries like maybe Angola or in Russia, where the government can take away your capital any moment they see fit. Now, how does this swindle about renewable energies work? Let's take a look here about these windmills. Well, the basic ingredient before stating this is if they are not profitable economically, it means they're not profitable energetically. Windmills and solar cells and so on, they cost more energy than they will produce in their lifetimes. If it's not the case, then subsidies are not needed because they can sort of run themselves. They don't need our subsidies. They need subsidies if they're not energetically efficient. So let's take a look at this windmill, how this looks. Imagine that it cost the equivalent of one barrel of oil equivalent to build one. And in their lifetimes they return half a barrel of oil equivalent. So you have in the balance, you have half a barrel of oil equivalent loss. But now we add subsidy to it. Maybe subsidy is the equivalent of 1 barrel of oil equivalent, of course then in money, but it will on the market will be the price of 1 barrel of oil. So now you can see that the cost still remains the same, 1 barrel, and it returns 1 barrel and a half, so you have half a barrel of profit. And then actually when you can reduce on the cost of the energetic cost of building these windmills, you just take some of these children's windmills, stick them into the ground, and you rake in the subsidies from the European Union. They cost just a couple of drops, and they get the subsidy of 1 barrel, so you have basically 1 barrel of oil profit. And when I was there in Malta, Malta is very close to Sicily. Let me see, I think here maybe, if you can see this, I think this must be Etna here. So Sicily was famous for exactly doing like this, building shitty windmills and raking in the European subsidies. So once again, let's look at this. The humans contribute 1.4% of production and get 94% of consumption. Hey, wait a second. Now let's go to the sustainability part. Not only about the energy transition, but the sustainability part. If humans, they contribute 1.4% and get 94% of consumption, this is not fair, because the capital is producing everything. This is not fair and thus unsustainable. In an amoral technocratic society, if you just see if you just treat the entire society as a machine that we have to optimize, that we have to make sustainable, what we're going to do, believe it or not, there is nothing against it, in a technocratic society aiming for sustainability, humans will be eradicated. They will be removed from the planet. And you can actually see all production nowadays can be done by capital alone, without the help of this 1.4% of humans. For instance, AI technology, capital can be done, can do the same work and can do it more efficiently. I'm still human, or maybe I'm one of these robots that doesn't know that he's a robot. But I claim that I'm human and I'm still doing it. But in principle, my talk could be given, and maybe even given much better, by a robot. So I can actually be removed from the production. And if I'm removed from the production, I should also not have rights to consumption. So I am, technically speaking, in terms of a technocratic society, I'm unsustainable. And then we look again at the United Nations. The United Nations Sustainability Agenda has no point for sustaining humans. Look again from the beginning, go back, scroll back, or wind back this video and look again that there is nothing to sustain the humans. It only says that we should have gender equality, that we should not have hunger, that we should not have poverty. And mind you, if you have 0 people living in the world, you don't have inequality in any form or shape. No gender inequality, you don't have hunger because nobody is alive. You don't have poverty because nobody is alive. There is absolutely peace and justice because nobody is alive. So if you see the society as a machine that you have to optimize and make sustainable, and there is you treat this in a technocratic way, that you see it like with control and feedback theory, you are actually basically going to remove the humans from the planet. Imagine that tomorrow we hand over the power to the AI, the ChatGPT or so on, and for 20 years we have been feeding this, that humans are sinful and a pest to the planet. Now, what do you think will happen if we give the power to this AI? Will it not decide that humans exactly, yes, well, we have been feeding this into it, humans have to be removed from the planet. And that is what it was going to do, because it is completely amoral. Only humans have morality, but the machine not. Now, to contrast this of this stupid United Nations agenda, is the alternative is utilitarianism of Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. They had a 2-point agenda, namely maximum happiness for the maximum number of people. So this agenda, I will come back to this later, this agenda should have these points, and actually should have only these 2 points. If we remove the humans from the planet, we will have another planet without human life, and there are billions and billions of planets that don't have human life. Do we really need one more? We have to think about it. Do we really need another planet that has no humans? Think about it. And now I'm going to a little bit into conspiracy thinking territory. I was watching this video of Bill Gates Jr. He gave his famous TED talk in which he says we have to reduce the CO2 emissions to 0. And the CO2 emissions are the number of people on the planet times the number of services per person consumed times the energy it costs per service times the number of CO2 molecules emitted per energy used. Mr. Gates said then that this CO2 should be reduced to zero, and basically he implied that the people should be reduced to zero, and he's actually saying in his talk that maybe vaccines is a way to reduce people. But he says, no, this is only will only kill 20% of the people, this doesn't go far enough. So we have to find other ways. Find his talk and listen to it. If we're going to reduce the population in a technocratic control engineer situation, we will actually control it to zero. There is nothing in the entire sustainability program that says that we have what level of humans do we want to sustain. But I will come to this in a moment. At zero, we have no problem whatsoever. All items on the agenda are met. And this one, and before I come to the conclusions, this one is then another one. I found that there exist the Georgia Guidestones, which are great big blocks of stone in which the agenda is chiseled. And you can see here, for instance, it says there, hey, maintain humanity under 500 million people. Exactly as I showed you, before fossil fuels, there were about 500 million. And this is then the idea, at least they have put a number, 500 million. We have to guide reproduction wisely. Guide reproduction wisely. I want to bring it then back to wise reproduction. That is the eugenics of Mr. Adolf from Germany. I will not say his full name because then this talk will be banned. It's also called race purification. It's also called Planned Parenthood by Gates Sr. And the idea is that we have to sort of interfere with the genetics of the society. We have to reduce the number of people and to make them stronger, to create a sort of like a super race. So we're at that point again. On top of that, it says there that we have to reduce the number of people, so we have to kill 93% of the population on the planet, or at least reduce them somehow, and then it will be sustainable. A perpetual balance, that means in sustainability, reduce the number is to kill them, and to have a wisely improving fitness and diversity. This is eugenics, and it says also to use the age of reason, which is then the technocracy. So what you see here, these stones are the exact United Nations sustainability agenda cast in stone. So let me summarize this. What did I tell you in this presentation? First of all, that the economy is energy. It's called the energy theory of value. Sustainability is not possible in unfettered free market capitalism, which will grow by 5%, and we will increase energy consumption, also fossil fuels, by 5%. Why? Because we can, and we are lazy, greedy, proliferate animals. Communism, on the other hand, if we don't do unfettered free market capitalism, communism will lead to poverty. Why? Because we're lazy, greedy, proliferate humans. So a communist will reduce its energy spending and will vote for more consumption, more than 100% of the production. Moreover, in a technocratic approach, what we're doing now actually, let's say with artificial intelligence, the sustainability agenda may lead to the eradication of humanity. There is nothing in the agenda that says that it will not be, the end goal is not zero humans. In my opinion, it is immoral. I cannot prove this because this is ethics and this is not science. But in my opinion, it's immoral to treat humanity as a herd. You should let people give the freedom to show that they are good people. You should let the people, allow the people to have the possibility to make mistakes so that they can show that they do not make mistakes. So if you treat the humans as a herd, that they cannot make mistakes, this is immoral, but that is the technocratic approach. And this goes against all religions, basically all moral laws ever written is a natural law. The United Nations Agenda 2030 needs an item of maximizing number of humans and not minimizing them to zero. At least it should be put there a number so that everybody knows how many people will be killed. Agenda 2030 also needs priorities, like Mr. Lomborg already said. We should say which one of these are more important than the others. And it's my suggestion that we put this as the #1 priority, namely the number of people in the world should be maximized. We should create the maximum number of people in the world. Well, I would like to thank you for your patience in watching this video. If you want to see more, this one, a link to this will also be in stalinge.org. You can have here this QR code, and I will also then put, hopefully in the future, I will put publications related to this. So have a nice day, and thank you for your attention.